Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of 1019, The Watch Commander. And we are simulcasting on the Police Applicant Podcast. And my gosh, this crew in here tonight has no patience whatsoever. But we're going to say hi to some friends. We want to welcome our special guest first, Viviana Sarrade. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you. We made it. We actually made it work. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. So
It's great. Well, you would be used to that. I mean, your tech stuff that you've been involved in has been much more advanced than the stuff that we're doing. But
technology always fails. So if my cell phone doesn't work, that should be okay because
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's say hello to our friends. Mark Slater is here. Great show last week. I think so too.
Thanks, Mark.
Tracy Tribune is here. Good evening, Tracy. Passe's been waiting a long time. And look at Mike. I just want to say that Zippy, Mrs. Mike, probably loves me more than she loves you.
She didn't even say hi to me.
I know.
Oh, man.
Look at our host said hi, Zippy. That's great.
Hi, everyone. I cannot see the comments, so hi to everyone.
Only one anxious one. You can't see the comments?
No, I can't, which is probably a good thing, because if they're being mean, I don't want to know.
They're not. They're usually pretty good audience. And look at Ghost One. We were like 1 minute off. Ghost One, we're here, man. So I hope that's okay. And Mike's favorite fan, GJ, is in the house. And
he's been working hard trying to get a message to Pam Bondi, but she's not even confirmed yet, dude. So you might as well just hold your horses.
She got confirmed today.
Oh, that's right. Send her an email, quick.
Send her an email. So we've got a really outstanding show. Let me see if I got this going on here. Look at this. I did that.
We look so good.
We do look good, and you know that I had so many photos of Viviana to pick from. I chose this one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. First, before we get started, and talking with Viviana, Mike wants to bring up something very important from last week. So, Mike, what's the update on this?
Well, it's not only last week, it's today. Today, the trial of Trevor Kirk began downtown L.A., and I just wanted to give a shout out to him and his wife, Megan, his daughter, Maggie, and his son, Elliot. We're all there with you. You're not alone. And it sounded like today might have gone pretty well, which is good. You know, you have to wait to see how things work out, but I understand former Sheriff Villanueva was also in the audience there, giving his support. I wish that I was in L.A. I'd have been there with him, but we're sending our thoughts and prayers to him. So keep it up, brother. Stay strong, and we're with you.
Yeah, and that was a good show last week. We did this show last week to highlight this with Nick Wilson, and I did a show with Alex Villanueva on this. And so we're praying for him. Hopefully Pam Bondi will be on it, take care of it. So before we get started, we're gonna not only introduce our guest, but before we start, Viviana, and talk about your experiences and things like that. The big picture tonight is going to be about biases in the news media. And first, let's show Viviana's newsreel. And there's some.
We just need to see a little snippet. That's more like enough because 12 years of
We're gonna show a little snippet, guys. So here we go.
Viviana Sarrade platicó con ellos. Viviana Sarrade nos cuenta los detalles.
Muy buenas noches, les informa Viviana Sarrade. Bienvenidos a Estrella News. En este momento como escucharon, están lanzando fuegos pirotécnicos y la policía está respondiendo. Esta montaña completamente está devorada.
I almost died covering that fire.
That's close.
I almost died. We have to be rescued.
Oh man.
I'll tell you about it later, but yeah.
Presidente de los Estados Unidos, Joe Biden.
Who's this guy?
Long Beach. Es importante señalar que
you have to.
ha gastado más de $36 millones. El mandatario Donald Trump llegó al aeropuerto de Los Ángeles en su avión presidencial Air Force One. Una situación bastante tensa. Simplemente estamos
Nice people.
nuestro trabajo, pero la gente There are rumors that you've been talking to Art Acevedo from Miami.
Absolutely
Boo.
false that
Boo.
I have desire to get rid of Chief Moore.
Nuestro canal tuvo la oportunidad de volar en el helicóptero con ellos y presenciar el momento cuando descubren una panga ya abandonada. Una camioneta que transportaba cerca de 20 migrantes cubanos se volcó e incendió. Parte de seres queridos, ya que son parte de las consecuencias del bullying y la violencia. Vamos con Melissa Henao desde California y los detalles de esta
I think you've seen plenty. I think they get the
There we
idea.
go.
¿Cómo se encuentra la familia tras esta tragedia?
Hey, I don't know what she's saying, but she looks good doing it.
Let me
Hey,
get
that's
that
not
enough
so
in
it's
here.
okay.
Okay, I had to turn that off. But so you've been doing the news and just news shows and things like that for a while. So tell us about you, how you got your start, and how you got to be who you are today, so we know who you are.
All right, I will try to be brief and short, concise, and precise because I hate long stories. And that's the news reporter in me. I just precise, concise to the point. I moved to the U.S. when I was 17 because my mom was going to remarry. So we moved to the U.S. I finished high school here. I went to college here, to Cal State Fullerton with a degree in journalism. And after that, I worked for Fox Spanish for 3 years. Then I went to the last station that I worked for 9 years. So I have total of 12 years of experience working this industry. And at this time, right now, at this moment, I'm not working for any company. So that's why I'm deciding to speak freely about this.
Yeah, there's a reason behind that, and we'll get into that a little bit as well. And you are you were a conservative voice in the news media.
You know what? I think I don't want to label myself anything. I think more than anything, I think I was a rational individual who looked at the facts and said it how it is. And unfortunately, because of the political environment that we're living, especially the past 4 years, anything that was different from being rational, it was deemed a specific way. And if you want to call that or label it Republican or conservative, that's a different take. But I feel like I was just being rational and logical when looking at the facts.
But not everybody agreed with you.
Oh, of course not.
Your viewpoint. And do you one of the things I think this will interest Mike and our audience is where I'm wondering what some of your experiences in that. You know what? When I look at the news media, I automatically think there's this much liberal bias and there's like this much conservative voices.
Yes, I can just hear you. I cannot see you. So whatever you're doing, I mean, you're showing your hands to, show something. I have no idea, but I just can hear you.
Okay.
So, okay, perfect. I guess maybe you can move it a tad higher.
What am I moving?
I don't know, because I can just see the top of your face, of your head.
Oh, let me see
So
if
I
I
know
can.
you were trying to say something as far as like,
No,
less. That's too close.
How's that? Can you see all of us though?
Oh man, that scared me.
It's okay. I can hear you. It's fine. So no worries. All good.
Are you not seeing us at all, or?
I can just see you, Mike.
That's good enough, baby. Let's roll. Oh, so
I can just myself.
now he makes it a thumbnail.
How about that? Can you see us? She has to see me, Mike.
No, I just see myself.
Oh, okay. Well, then
We're like little thumbnails at the bottom there, Ken.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just messing around with these. I don't know what shows on her end, but anyways, we're talking about your.
I know you were gesturing as far as like this much in comparison to this much. I'm assuming from what you were saying, so I want to just let you know that I cannot see what you were, doing.
Right.
So,
right. So tell us about the biases and things like that go on. You know what? When I first started talking to you about this, I'm like, I knew it. I knew that the conservative voices were being silenced, and but we couldn't prove it, right? So, what can you share with us?
Whew, I can share a lot, and I can give you tons of examples. Not just my examples, but also examples from former colleagues, colleagues who are working for even national TV. For I don't know if I want to mention those big names. I mean, I talked to you, previously, and I told you the big names that we're dealing with,
Mhm.
and all I can tell you is that when it comes to specific topics, if it's immigration, if it's the COVID, if it's the vaccine, those topics, if you think regular media is biased, Spanish media is biased on steroids, and you can multiply that exponentially. Uh, just to give you an example, I was covering the story of this lady. She lost her husband. He died from COVID, and we were, she needed help to pay for the funeral arrangements and all these different things. So we were like covering a lot of these stories when it barely broke out, like 2020 March, all those months, right? And I remember when I was interviewing this lady, she was like, she told me, "Hey, do I need to suggest to the audience to get the vaccine?" And I was like, "No, I mean, you tell me whatever you want to tell me." And then it's like, "Oh, are you sure I don't need to say anything?" I was like, "No, say whatever you want to say. We're here to help you. If you have a GoFundMe, or if you need, I don't know, any other kind of help, right?" And I was like, why are you asking me this so insistently, right? And she told me that this channel in Spanish here in LA told her that in order for them to air her story, she needed to say that that's why it's so important to get the COVID vaccine. That way, another family would suffer what she's suffering because she lost her husband to COVID. And I was just appalled. I couldn't believe it that in order for a news channel to report and to air a story, they were asking this poor woman who just lost her husband to say that people needed to get the vaccine. I just thought it was the most disgusting thing that I've heard.
So, it was propaganda.
It was something. They definitely had an agenda. And look, I think every single channel, every single news station, everyone has an agenda. But the moment you're asking your viewers, the moment you're asking the people that you are supposedly trying to help, when you're asking them to say something kind of like a quid pro quo, if you say this, I do this, that's disgusting. That's horrible. It's almost like some sort of payment. You say this and I air your story because you need me to receive help. It's almost like action,
Yeah,
quid pro quo.
that's wrong. Mike, what do you think about
Well, I
that?
agree with you. That's wrong. But I think that um, the news is not news anymore. It's entertainment.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
what they're trying to do is it's clickbait, right? They're just trying to get people to watch their channel instead of the other channel, and anything they have to do, any kind of gyrations they want to put themselves through, they'll do it. And I agree with Viviana. It's really disgusting, especially now that we're starting to find out on the national level how the news was purposely blocking things. Like right off the top of my head, the Biden's kid laptop, right? Oh, it's disinformation. It's a lie. How dare you? Oh, it's true. And the revelation about the 51 what is it, national security people that signed off on the letter saying it was Russian disinformation. They can prove now that it was done purposely to help Biden with this election campaign. What a bunch of bullshit. Pardon my French. By the way, Viviana, you don't know me. I don't know you. I'm usually a pretty mellow guy, but when I get pissed off, I cuss. Okay, so
I can
you
tell.
you, you might hear an F bomb or two popping out of me, but it's not intended to be offensive. But sometimes the proper words just don't come, so I
I Makes
I
sense.
fall back. Okay.
Yeah, what you said, that the news right now are just a show and it's just for entertainment. You are absolutely right. When I think of the word news or a newscast, I really don't think of it as presenting just news. It's more a show of news, because the main goal is the rating. That's it. The main goal is every single cycle when we get the ratings, it's okay, how many viewers do we have? Did we beat the competition or not? It's just about the shocking value. It's about the entertainment. And I guess the sadder the story, the more devastating, the more terrible, the more like anything that's extreme is exactly what sells, and that's exactly what they will use during the headlines, because that's
Well,
what sells.
isn't there a an axiom in the business that if it bleeds, it leads?
It's a very well known phrase.
Yeah, exactly right. Do you want to put Mary Poppins had a good day, or do you want to put somebody, use a shotgun on somebody and they bled a lot? Well, that's what happens.
Because because it sells. And I was talking to Ken actually a few days ago, and I was telling him, there's so many times. And this is a very interesting topic when we're talking about police brutality and the so-called victim or suspect. I mean, it depends who you're asking, right? You don't want to call a
Yeah.
victim or a suspect. Every single time that the victim or suspect was a Hispanic person, automatically that would be the lead of the newscast. And before the newscast starts, you have the headlines. They go back to back quick, and instead of, they would be like, oh, it happens again, another Hispanic gets beat up by the police. And it's such a repetitive phrase over and over, and because it sells. And then you bury at the end of the story that, oh, by the way, the suspect, oh, by the way, the victim, they were armed. Oh, it seems like they belong to a gang. So, but the first thing that you hear at the beginning, oh, it happens again. Another member of the Hispanic community gets brutalized by police.
Oh, I'll give you one. I was field sergeant at Lennox Station back in the day, and there was a shooting. Some guy was in his garage, and someone came up and accosted him and attacked him in his garage, and the guy shot him with a rifle and took care of that. We're out there, and this news van comes speeding up. The guy's got the antennas on his truck, and he runs out and he goes, "Was there a shooting?" "Yeah." "Okay. Was it a white guy against a black guy?"
Oh my God.
And I go, "No, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you that it was a white guy shot a white guy." He goes, He got in his van and drove away. All of a sudden, it wasn't a story anymore. And that is in the late '80s that happened, and it's only gotten worse since then. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen, those little subtle biases that the media will put in. Like
Yeah.
you said, it's like, oh, the police stopped this guy and they shot him dead. And the victim of the deputy shooting, such and such. And it's like, the victim of the shooting? Well, yeah, he was armed. He had a dead body in the trunk of the car. He was slapping his mama. And it's just like, it doesn't matter anymore. Because
But he or she
it's
was the
just,
victim still.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, it happens a lot. Yes, actually, let me tell you a story with. Oh, and not just that. Have you also noticed that whenever they're sharing the story, the suspect or the victim, they usually use a picture when they were like 10 years old, or way younger, or
Right.
when they were like going through their baptism or first communion or whatever. So it's like, but you can later see that they were all tatted up and like, man, really, like, so
Yeah.
we are definitely we are manufacturing a truth, a reality that it's honestly not there anymore in order to sell a story. Like I was telling Ken a few days before, something like what you mentioned, it like I said, I don't want to say names of the companies or the names of the reporters, because some of them are still working and I talked to them and they have confided and they've told me these things. So one station in English, they got a memo. They got a memo that anytime that they are covering a police pursuit, a car pursuit, they are not allowed to say the race of the person who's driving the car, of the suspect. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, that I witnessed, that I actually saw it, that I lived it, because the reporter was actually reporting next to me the same story. It was, if I'm not mistaken, 'cause I've done so many stories. If I'm not mistaken, it was a homicide. It was a homicide, and the suspect was at large. And of course, we had the press conference, and the police told us, the description of the suspect is this is the race, a possible height, weight, what this person was wearing at the time of this incident. And this reporter, she was about to go live. She went live before me, a few seconds live before me, and I actually heard the description. Well, the lack of description when she was reporting this case. She never ever mentioned the race of the suspect. So what I'm thinking is, we're talking about a dangerous suspect. We are talking about a armed suspect, and we are talking about the safety of the community, and you are disregarding all those things just because you don't think or deem that it's necessary to mention the race of a potential murderer, like of someone who just committed a homicide. So to me, it's just baffling that just because you dare to describe the suspect and say their race, you might be called a racist, which is ridiculous. And so we are disregarding the safety of the community because he was an armed suspect, and obviously a dangerous one, because we are talking about a homicide.
Yeah, well, the police are asking for your assistance to locate a male or female suspect who may or may not be armed, who may or may
That's
not
all
be
you need
driving
to
a blue
know.
Volvo. It's ridiculous. And this identity politics has gone way over. In fact, I was going to ask you a question. I personally think that Los Angeles, in particular, has gone beyond the tipping point as far as sanity and just being able to speak the truth. What's your opinion on that?
I think we are seeing a shift. I think people are just fed up. They're extremely tired, and I think people are starting to speak up. I think people now are just tired of all the lies, of the same narrative, of the same ideology, of the same dogma. And now they're speaking up because now they've actually seen the results of these failed policies, the results of electing specific officials for these specific city jobs. So I think people are starting to talk. I think people are starting to be more vocal. 4 years ago, they were afraid, they were scared because of being canceled, because of losing your job, because now nobody will shop at your store anymore. So I think people are finally speaking up.
They're getting tired of cancel culture, that's for sure.
Yes, I don't think there's cancel culture anymore per se. You might have some sort of people harassing you through social media, because I've dealt with that while covering certain stories, especially police brutality. I've been victim of that, like people harassing me through Instagram and stuff like that. But you get to a point that you're so over it and that you just speak up. So I don't think cancel culture is still happening as much as before now. I think it's like more just
I think is going on now, though. I mean, I saw that there's a certain political party. They're a little left of where I am, and they were just hiring some new leader of whatever that organization was, and they were making them promise that they were going to make transgender hires, and they were going to do this, and and you're just looking at them. It's like these people are debasing themselves, and they are obviously so tone deaf. They don't understand what just happened in the most recent election. Every county around LA, I understand, turned red. And LA County, I mean, more people voted a little bit more center or right than they have in quite a while. But I mean, is that going to be enough? It's if you've got the leadership, some people, I'll name names like Adam Schiff, Karen Bass, your knucklehead governor. I can't even think of his name right now.
Your governor.
Oh man, I've just blocked him out of my mind. He'll talk like this, and oh my gosh, and they are they're tone deaf, and I don't know if they're purposefully being ignorant or what the story is. Maybe they just haven't gotten the message yet. But I think their brand of politics is, man, I'm hoping it's on the decline. But One of the big factors in all this last 4 years has been the press playing pokey with them and reporting what they wanted and not reporting what they didn't want reported. Ken, what's your point on that? Thank you, Bert. Newsom. God.
I don't know if you can see the comments,
I can
Viviana. It says, Rawl A says, "Thank you, Viviana, for being so vulnerable and transparent. It's refreshing to hear and see."
Yay.
And
Well, what about me?
Rawl
Aren't
said
I
that.
being vulnerable?
You're
You're always vulnerable. Sometimes when you start
Yeah.
crying and your voice goes high.
That's
and
true.
I did want to ask you something, but I'll preface it with this. You are a big police supporter. You have a lot of friends. You have a ton of friends in law enforcement. You've spoken at law enforcement events, conferences, and things like that. So going back to the reporting part, it seems like it's a common theme, or it's an ongoing theme, that police bad, suspects good,
Yeah.
victims.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what like I'm telling you, that's what sells. Police brutality sells. If you're gonna air, oh, gang member got shot while stealing and while trafficking drugs, got shot. Okay, that doesn't sell. But if you say, oh, minority or African American or Hispanic or whatever minority, oh, got shot again, victim of police brutality, it sells. So what can I tell you about that? You know what? I have covered plenty OISs, officer involved shootings and deputy involved shootings, and it. I mean, I don't think anybody can ever say that I was ever leaning towards a specific side. Um, but you know what, this comes from inside. This comes from within the news organization. This comes from the producer, because the producer, whenever when you have, the beginning of your shift, you have the editorial meeting, and during the editorial meeting they're telling you, oh, there was an officer involved shooting, and the angle that they want you to take is police bad, victim, suspect good, no matter what. So you already come with this preconceived idea of how you want to portray the story. And unfortunately, many times, there's been the situations like, well, the victim is really not the victim. The victim was armed, and the victim all these different, details. And when you go and tell the producer, well, you know what, this didn't happen like this, they still decide to bury that information till the end of the story. So the viewer is listening to your package. A package lasts between a minute of 30 to 2 minutes, right? So for the first minute or so, you're just gonna hear, oh, he got shot 10 times, and his family, they want justice, and they're telling you that now he's leaving a mom, his wife, and his children are gonna be orphans. And then at the very, very, very end, oh, the suspect was armed. So for 90% of that package of the news story, all you hear is like how the suspect is a victim. However, the last 10 seconds or so, it's like when you actually hear the fact that this person was armed, or potentially a gang member, or if this person was the first one to shoot at the officers. So it comes from within. That's what they want to sell. And even if the story changes, even if the information changes, they will just bury that at the end of the story. So they will still lead with what they want to lead, because they know what they sell.
Well, that leads me to another question, in that the news market in the Hispanic community is much smaller than most markets. Is that correct?
Yes, I know. It depends on the market, obviously. Here in LA, this is market number one for Spanish. Whereas for English, New York is market number one. So since LA is market number one for Spanish, we have a huge number of viewers. Actually, like I said, I'm not going to mention names, but if you Google it, you will be able to find it super quickly and easily. There are Spanish channels that actually have gotten better ratings, and by that I mean more viewers, than English channels. So that tells you something. So there is a
So
huge
let me-
number of people who are watching Spanish media. And
tells
unfortunately, that people are getting brainwashed. They're just hearing a specific set of ideologies that from that specific group of people.
yeah, it tells me that LA County is now over 50% Hispanic as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and well,
Sure.
and you need to understand this. So we're talking about that. Okay, people who watch Spanish media is because they're either first generation or they're immigrants. And the problem with that is because they don't speak the language or they're still learning it. They're stuck with that media. They're stuck with that channel and they're stuck with that ideology. So every day, day after day after day, they're hearing the same thing. Oh, police brutality or whatever you want to add into the equation is what they hear over and over. And it's interesting because it's creating this cycle of misinformation, because now it's not just the mom or the dad or the parents listening to this misinformation, because you also have the kids listening to the same information. And sometimes these kids either they do learn English, but sometimes they stick with Spanish, and now maybe we're into like second or even third generation listening to the same Spanish media over and over, the same ideas. So now we have this vicious cycle of lies.
Are there any conservative
So-
Hispanic channels in Los Angeles? Because I know that the Mexican American or Hispanic community is not monolithic, right? They're not just all one thing. I mean, you've got the entire scale of political beliefs.
Yeah, you know what? I'm happy that you mentioned that. Well, to answer your question first, no, I don't think there are any more conservative leaning channels. However, the company that I used to work before, they were pretty moderate. I would have discussions with my producers, with my executive producers, and there were many times that I showed them the facts and be like, hey, I want to say this story like this because of this. And they were actually pretty understanding. However, we need to be honest. There's only two channels who dominate, who have the majority, 90% of the audience here in LA. And those channels are not very, conservative or logical leaning, if you want to call it that way, So, I'm sorry. That's a long answer, but no, I don't think so. No, there are not.
Let me go back to my last question. Is that given all the information that you've given us right now, is it safe to say that because of the saturation of the bias against police, what does the Hispanic community think of cops in LA area?
This is gonna sound horrible, and maybe I don't want to exaggerate. I think hate is a strong word, but unfortunately, I think the way media portrays police officers, a good amount of people end up hating cops. So,
Well, you know what? That I just wrote a question down here, and it's just rhetorical, actually. But it's why would anybody want to be a cop today in Los Angeles? I can point right now to the Trevor Kirk story, where the kid's just doing his job. He's doing as he was trained to do, and the sheriff, who I consider to be a very weak sister. I hope he's not a drinking buddy of yours, but I think he's a very, very weak sheriff. He took offense to it because he took a little heat from the BLM crowd and got this kid filed on with a BS charge in federal court. And he's sitting there fighting for his life, might do 20 years in a federal prison, leaving his wife and two kids because somebody took offense to the way he took a criminal to the ground. Why would anybody even put themselves through that anymore? Why bother?
I mean, I can actually give you an answer.
Like I said, it's rhetorical. You can ask if you want. You can answer. Sure, go ahead. That would be wonderful.
And this is, it's a in the works. Maybe even though I cover all the BLM protests and COVID and immigration and the first major protest against Donald Trump in 2016. I was there. It was crazy. It was chaotic. I was surrounded by like at least 10,000 people. They were burning piñatas. It was just hectic. It was chaotic. And even though I've seen the treatment that police officers get, and even though I've seen all they have suffered, I think for that one interaction for that one good interaction that you have with one cop, you can change someone's idea of how they feel about law enforcement. And if we change one person at a time, hey, we're doing something. I'm a positive person. I always tend to believe and hope for the best. And that being said, I've been thinking about potentially maybe even joining or applying to become part of, I won't say the department, but because I truly believe in what they do. I truly believe that we are still helping people, whether they realize it or not, whether they are thankful or grateful of it. We are not here for, police officers are not there for the, oh, thank you, or to become, or to be put on a pedestal. They do that because they love the community, and that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking about doing it, to be quite honest.
Time out. Are you saying you're going to apply to be a police
I just
officer?
said what I said. If you got it, you got it.
Oh my gosh! Here first. Breaking news. Keep us posted on that. I want to get to to a couple of comments here. Helper's here. Helper is here.
I know Helper. Hi, Helper.
And yep. He says he's been on protest duty for 3 days. And let me see. What did he said? That I can say for a fact she was there. She's an awesome reporter. Love her, especially her UFC coverage. We're going to get into that in a little bit too. Sonia is here. Sonia Montejano is here as well. There was a comment that was made earlier, and I want to first, Paula Ramirez says Osvaldo Borres.
Yeah, he works for Univision, and I have to actually agree with Paula. He is one of the few journalists in LA who has common sense and who gives a fair coverage to police incidents. Yes, I agree with Paula. Yes, I know Osvaldo Borres. I've worked with him on the field, so yes.
Yeah. Paula says that he's a fair journalist and a friend to law enforcement. He has covered many of her law enforcement leads. She's given him a great relationship with law enforcement. But I want to bring up, Elliot made some comments up here, and you can't see the comments, right?
Now I can, yes.
Okay, I want to check out this one. He said, I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but most journalists and entire news networks are doing the dirty work of a certain political party. As time has gone on, it's very evident how true independent media, such as this podcast, are shedding light on the truth, and people are not falling for it as much. What do you make of that?
I think it's a valid assessment, because like anything, I could potentially, I can just give you my opinion of law enforcement, but I really don't know the ins and outs because I'm not working, as a police officer. So, however, I can give you a valid opinion from what I see. However, it will never be the full truth because I'm not there. So I understand why they believe that. I understand why they think that, and I think it's pretty valid. But as someone who has worked in the news industry for the past 12 years, I can tell you that a good amount of people do lean to a specific political party. However, there are fair journalists who are seekers of truth and facts. So if you're telling me every single one of them, 100% of them, are trying to do the devil's work, no, that's not accurate or true at all whatsoever. A good amount of people are doing certain things that they shouldn't, yes, but not all of them.
So I want to ask you something. You can say no comment, or I can't answer this. But I want to get your take on some of these news organizations like CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Politico, and all. What's your take on overall the personalities of these people?
It's sad. Well, I think at this point, I'm not planning on working. No, shoot, I'm like, I don't think I'm planning on working for that company. But the problem with this company is they have sister companies, and they own smaller companies. But I can tell you that it's very unfortunate. I don't know if it's remember that we're talking about how I got into this argument back and forth through Instagram with this reporter from I don't know. Do you remember, Ken? Remember that I told you, this reporter from this company? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you guys after the newscast of the record. So this person works for the network, meaning which is a national newscast, and he also works every single market. He can work English and he can work Spanish, and he works the network. If you're smart enough and you work in the news industry, you will know what I mean. So we had an argument with this person, and it's unfortunate because these so-called journalists, I don't call them journalists because if they were real journalists, they will be seeking truth and facts, but they have this monolithic idea of how Latinos, how Hispanics should think and how should act. Unfortunately, this person has achieved so much to the point, like I'm telling you, he works for national TV, and he works in English and he works in Spanish. He has achieved more than a bunch of journalists which could achieve. Like, I'm not at that position. I'm not at that level. I wish I could work for English and Spanish and then the national level. This person is doing it. And this person still believes he is a victim. Still believes he is a victim of racism. And it's so sad that they are living in this victim mentality, in this cage of being a victim, that they don't see how much they have achieved. So what I'm trying to say with this super long answer is the fact, no matter how much they have achieved, no matter how big the platform they have might be, they still think they are victims just because they are Hispanics, just because their parents or they themselves might be immigrants. So it's sad, and you cannot change their mindset. And unfortunately, that mindset is exactly what they're airing. That kind of ideology is exactly what they're putting into their newscast. But not just them; it also comes from producers. I follow a bunch of ex-producers, former colleagues, and it's sad because I feel like at some point, reporters, journalists, producers, anyone who worked in the news industry, they had the decency to at least keep their political tendencies or political partisanship to themselves. Now they don't care. They are emboldened. Now they are posting all kinds of stuff, and it's very leaning to a specific side. And that's scary because look, one reporter is only one report, is only one news story, but I see producers talking freely and very pro specific party. And the problem with that is that news producer is in charge of a whole entire newscast. So okay, one reporter is one story, is like a 2 or 3 minute story, and you're done with that story. But a producer has the power over a 30-minute or even an hour newscast. And if that producer is producing more than 1 or 2 or 3 newscasts, can you imagine? Like, we're talking about one single person having the power to just say all these lies and kind of just keep on validating whatever they believe for however many hours or however many shows they're producing.
Well, Mike probably has an opinion on on my next question. Mike has an opinion. But for instance, a perfect example for me on this next question is the protest downtown. And barely the news is scratching the surface that maybe LAPD's not taking action and the CHP's not taking action and LASD's in the standby. They're not allowed to go in, but they're not saying who's responsible for the inaction. And why does the news just not say, hey, the mayor told them not to do this? Or like, who's responsible for reporting why the cops' hands are tied?
Okay, so your question is why are reporters not saying that the mayor told them not to do that? No, not to arrest people, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be honest with you. In order for me to give you an answer, I would have had to seen every single newscast and kind of tell you, oh, they didn't say it, because I don't know if they said it or not. But let's suppose they didn't say it. I don't know why they wouldn't say it. I mean, they were, like I said, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it. I haven't seen the newscast. They will have to say it, and if they are not saying it, it's because they have a hidden agenda. If they haven't said it, it's because they have a hidden agenda. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard. Since I stopped working for the news, I stopped watching news. So I'm sorry. I know it's not the answer that you want, but that's the real answer. I haven't seen news. I just read news on my phone. I don't sit down and watch like the 5 p.m. news. So I'm sorry. That's the best answer that I can give. My limited,
that's fine.
Knowledge about that.
Yeah, Mike, who's responsible?
Well, I will speak on behalf of the sheriff's department. Nothing that's really been going on affects sheriff stuff. I think they have Grand Park, and they have the HOJJ, they have the central jail area, but everything is an LAPD issue, frankly, at this point, and they would only get involved if LAPD would ask them to come and play. And I'm not so sure the sheriff would come and play unless they were allowed to do it the way they want to. If you remember a couple of years ago, LAPD was losing an intersection and they asked for sheriff's help. The sheriff showed up with pepper balls and sting balls and some very well-qualified, well-motivated deputies, and they cleared that intersection in about 15 minutes and probably expended about 10,000 pepper balls on the crowd.
I was there. I was there.
Well,
really good.
Did you get?
Brian
Yeah.
Miller.
Yeah. Well, and the bottom line is, our folks, they had a job to do and they did it. And I think LAPD would, based on what I'm hearing about the instructions that they're being given, they probably don't want us there because we would raise a little bit of hell and clear the street for them. But that's just me. I
don't know what would Luna do.
My guess is he'd defer. It's going to take him about a month to decide whether or not they should deploy today. So, no offense, but I like I said, he's over his head. He's a very slow decision maker. I don't know what he does, but I think the folks actually in today's climate, the deputies are better off staging and not being deployed. Just be there to be ready if the spam really hits the fan, but don't get involved unless you have to, because you're going to end up in all kinds of trouble with the liberal establishment that's out there. That's my opinion.
Yep.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm just gonna piggyback to what you're saying, super quickly. I've seen that the incident that you're talking about. I was actually there, and that is so true. And probably LAPD is gonna crucify me for saying this. However, I have noticed that protesters, rioters, I guess, they do know it. They react differently when LASD is handling the situation.
You bet they do.
100%, because
Yep.
I've seen it. I've seen situations, and I forget the name. It was an officer-involved shooting. I kid you not. There were maybe 4 patrol cars, maybe 4 deputies, and we are talking tons of people, and everybody, yeah, they were yelling, whatever, but they were behaving. Whereas I've seen certain instances where it's with LAPD, because unfortunately they know that they can get away with that with LAPD, because they know the higher ups will bend the knee. So people
Yeah.
know when they're dealing with LASD, it's a completely different scenario. They respect them
Well,
more.
yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, I think the sheriff is probably right now on a bended knee somewhere trying to figure out who he can kowtow to. But I used to work at a station in South LA called Firestone, and we bordered, Southgate, Huntington Park, LAPD, a couple of LAPD jurisdictions. And if we caught somebody coming across Central into our area and we caught them, 9 times out of 10, you'd hear him say, "Why did you drive across Central into the sheriff's area?" I, I told you specifically, please don't do that. Yeah, but it was the closest way to my mama's house. Well, mama just got us both arrested, right? It's true, but here's my thing about cops. Law enforcement is not good-looking boys and girls passing out lollipops to the kids. You Law enforcement can be a rough and dangerous job, and you need people who can be rough and dangerous as the circumstances dictate. And they need to be able to do their jobs. I mean, if you've got an armed, dangerous suspect locked inside of someplace, he's barricaded, who do you want going through the door to go get him? Pee Wee Herman? Mary Poppins? Or do you want a couple of highly trained, highly skilled, highly efficient law enforcement professionals to boot the door and take care of it? And
I want someone that looks like
well,
me.
yeah, me too. Because this face, But anyway, but people, I don't even know if I think the average citizen understands that. I really do. Because I worked down in some pretty poor areas, and they were very happy to see us. We didn't get all this baloney, and they wanted the gangsters out of the neighborhood. They wanted the crooks kicked out. They wanted the drug dealers kicked out. And if we had to use force on somebody, if somebody got roughed up a little bit because their actions dictated our reactions, that's the way it went. But, to me, the biggest danger is the uninformed voter or person.
Yes.
One's,
Mhm.
and I was going to say that they're not necessarily underinformed. They're informed with too much BS from this liberal media, and they walk around believing. I remember, man, I got so many stories. One time I was walking on the street, and this little black kid comes up, about 4 years old. He comes up and goes, "Hi, police," and you could tell his eyes lit up, and he saw a cop. His mom grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him back, and said, "Don't talk to him. He'll arrest you." And I was like, I got down at his level, and I go, "No, I won't. I mean, I might arrest your mom, but..." No, I didn't say that last. I didn't say that last part. I was paraphrasing. But that's the mentality you're dealing with a lot of folks. They've got this, half the family's in a gang somewhere, and they tell you, "Oh, stay away from the cops. They're no good." And man, I've known a lot of good cops. I've known a couple that are idiots that they're not cops anymore. But 99.999% of them are doing the Lord's work. And it's just a shame to have ended up where we are today. And I think a lot of that has to do with the piss poor leadership and the politicizing of, like, the sheriff's job. The sheriff does not answer to the board of supervisors. The board can screw with his budget all they want, but once the money is allocated, it's the sheriff's money to spend. It's his decision to make. He does not have to ask them, "Oh, mother, can I please have this?" or "Can I please spend my money on that?" But this sheriff seems to think he's subservient or subordinate to him, and it is destroying the department. It's ripping the guts out of the people that work on the department. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of it. I'm up to here with it. What do you think, Viviana?
You know what? 100%, because I think there's a huge disconnect between the politicians and what the people, what they really want, what they really need. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because when I was interviewing Karen Bass, she, and I have it on my interviews, I can actually show you that. She told me that the neighbors, specific neighborhoods. I don't recall what areas. Like I have that on the interview, but we were talking about police, and if we needed more police officers, more patrol, and this and that. And she told me that there are certain areas that do not want police officers, that they don't need or want to see more police patrol. And then I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? And those were the areas that are plagued with the most shootings, with the most gang members. And you are telling me the community members don't want more police officers, but then you go to those areas and you talk to the people living in that area, and they do want more police officers. So there's this disconnect between what politicians and that's the problem, because politicians believe what they see on the news, what they see on TV, and they automatically think that's what the people, what the neighborhood needs, and that is not the case. And the problem with that is that they're perpetuating this idea. Like you said, the mom has a specific idea of how they see police officers, and she's already teaching that to her kid. So they're perpetuating this false ideology, because there is this disconnect between the truth, between politicians who take in charge of a city, and what the people really want. So
I guarantee you that Bass, if she talked to anybody, she probably talked to some activist somewhere that is anti-cop, anti-law enforcement, defund the police, all cops are bastard, fuck the police crowd. And I think that, what she's pushing for now is a smaller LAPD. She might be saying that she wants more, but they can't keep up. And the sheriff's department is losing people hand over fist. They go out and they recruit them, they train them, and they can't retain them because they get jacked around in the system for a couple of years, and they're like, screw this, Beverly Hills will give me $10,000 to go over there, right? And watch what happens this next March, April. That's retirement season. I guarantee you the sheriff's department loses between 350 and 600 people through retirement. And how many classes do they have going through, and how many are they going to be able to get? Not enough, and I don't think, as they call Bunker Bob, I don't think he cares. I don't think he understands. And you can only overwork people so long, and then they start realizing that they're being taken advantage of. We've talked about this a lot, Viviana, outside of when you've been on here, but,
right.
They're working triple doubles, and this last 3 or 4 weeks, they've been working 12 on, 12 off. They've been out there inhaling all this smoke. I guarantee you there's people going off IOD, guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of IODs also are the result of just departmental burnout. It's like they can't take it anymore. So they, their elbow hurts, man, they're going off work for a week. That's just the way it goes. And they actually, the sheriff's department needs a dynamic leader who's going to actually lead the department and not just let it swirl down the toilet of life. My hope is that this guy's a one-term sheriff and he's an afterthought somewhere. And someday somebody will point at his picture and go, who the hell is that guy? And no one's going to remember. Because he is personally overseeing the destruction of the LA County Sheriff's Department. Yeah, so there. What do you got to say about that, Viviana?
What's your opinion about that?
Go ahead.
Point
counterpoint.
I've had the opportunity to interview Luna. I also had the opportunity to interview former Sheriff Villanueva. So I guess all I can tell you is there is a reason why deputies, the final rank, are still wishing and hoping for Villanueva to come back. There's a reason. There's an obvious reason. And that's all I have to say about that. If you are a good leader, people want you to stay. If not,
well, you know what? Except in the case of Los Angeles, that has like 6 million people in it. A lot of them are low information. And when the time comes for an election, they're going to see sheriff and they're going to see incumbent or sheriff next to his name and go, oh, that must be the guy, right? Without having any in-depth knowledge or having been pumped full of liberal media crap for 4 years. They're just going to like smile and go ahead. What do you think about that, Viviana? I see you raising your hand.
What? Yes, I mean, because let's be honest. nobody knew about Robert Luna until the last bit, and then we see, oh well, he's been endorsed by the LA Times. How did that happen? And that's a ginormous machine to go against. So, however, and this is one of my theories. I might be wrong, but I've asked so many people how they vote, and the moment they see a Hispanic last name, they vote for the Hispanic last name. Uh, so I think that could potentially be a factor that plays into the election, into electing a new sheriff. Uh, so if we get another Hispanic last name right there, it might work. But unfortunately, when it came to Villanueva, the damage was done against him. Like, you had every single group and activist against him, that he couldn't escape the bad rep that they gave him at this point.
Yeah,
So
we
people went with like, oh, Luna, Hispanic last name, we'll just go with him. So
Yeah, well,
I don't think they were informed about it, honestly.
my real name is Miguel Bornman, so
Oh, there you go. If
I'm
you
coming out now
actually
to let everybody know I'm a very light-skinned Hispanic male. Alex, love him or hate him, he was a mixed bag, but he got stuff done, and he had the respect of his troops. If he'd have changed his message, I think he'd still be sheriff today.
I
And
think
and
he
I'd
needed to
tell
be more diplomatic. He needed to pick and choose his battles. Uh, but he definitely had the backs of his deputies, without a doubt. And I think I've interviewed him several times, and I think he's a very smart individual, very intelligent man. He just needed to be more diplomatic.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a memory, and he's really well read, and I agree. I think a little more diplomacy. I mean, even Donald Trump in his second term now, he's being much more diplomatic,
More team, yeah, he learned.
right? And I mean, he learned. I mean, he got slapped around for 4 years, and now he's the one doing the slapping, and he just changed his tune a little bit. And I think, I don't know what Alex's plans are for the future, but I guess we'll find out pretty soon. But this guy that's there now, I don't Hispanic last name or not, he might as well be El Diablo. That's a Spanish last name, but he just he's not a right fit. He's a fish out of water. He knows nothing about the sheriff's department. He would bend the knee in a half a second, and that's not what cops do. You're supposed to just enforce the law, stay down the middle, right? Fair, impartial, no favor, nothing. Just do your job, and he's not letting them do it. And now I see you moving your pen again. Go ahead.
I have a question for you guys. It's something that I always like to ask guys, either whether in LAPD or sheriffs or any other police agency. Do you guys think it's important, it's necessary for the next sheriff to be someone who went through all the process and all the different levels of being a deputy, working the jails, like, come from within the department because they know the culture better?
Yeah, that's I'm speaking for me. I don't know what Ken's position is going to be, but I say, yeah, I think that like Mr. Bornman here, I've got 36 years on the sheriff's department. I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. I know what makes it tick. And I guarantee you that I know for a fact that there are areas where Luna, at 3 years into it, still hasn't visited. And I think that he relies on people that are giving him bad advice or no advice. I think he's on a shoestring. And I think that one way, knowing the culture is one thing, but I think the culture also needs to move forward. I think the sheriff's department's kind of stuck right now, and it's been stuck for a while. I think the kids, I call them kids because I'm a lot older than they are, they just don't know. They don't know where to turn. They don't know who to believe. They don't know who to listen to. I'll tell you what, I know that whenever something good happens, the deputies do a great job. It's crickets chirping. You don't hear anything. But man, let one little thing, rise to his level that some activist group is mad or whatever, they come down on them like a ton of bricks. And it's sad to see what's been going on. And I think the only way to really fix that is to get rid of him. and have somebody come in that's got historical background in the sheriff's department, but is not stuck in the current day culture. Current day culture, law enforcement is generally really reactive because we aren't real progressive by nature because we have to follow the law, and the laws stick us in a certain box. And the only way to get out of that box is if someone is going to be forward thinking and move the department 5-10 years into the future. You can't just walk into it and say, well, this looks pretty nice to me, because it's not, right? There's too much going on right now. There's been too many changes. They need to move forward, and they need someone who's going to stand up and say no, right? I mean, you can say yes all day long, and you can cooperate. You can be, collaborative with everybody. But there comes a point in time when, damn it, you're the sheriff. You've made a decision. That's it. Anything else, I appreciate your input, but no, we're going to do this. He doesn't do that. He won't do that. He can't do that. I don't think it's in his DNA. So remember.
That's a character flaw on his part.
Remember that Miguel Bornemann just shared that information with you, and we'll move forward.
Bornemann, Miguel. In answer to your question, I think that cops, the thing is that the chief takes the organization takes on the personality of the chief. And if the chief is one of those people where they constantly go, oh yeah, he was in the field for 5 minutes and then he got these special spots and he's been inside all this time, they're not going to respect that person because they don't know how to do patrol. And they want someone who came up through the ranks. They want someone within their own organization. I think Bill Bratton was kind of the different in where I think he got a lot of respect. I was there for 5 minutes when he came on and before I retired. But other than that, Willie Williams, I don't think he's the only other outsider, but I think that you need a cop's cop to lead LAPD, and I think they can't be an inside squint. They need to know patrol in order to tell patrol officers how to do patrol. I'm really a big fan of inside chiefs coming in, and as long as they're well liked, you're going to get people to follow you into battle.
Well, I will add one caveat though. The thing between the sheriff's department and LAPD, the sheriff's elected, and the sheriff has the right to do the job the way he sees fit. I guarantee you, this LAPD chief right now, I think I think he's in the spot that he's going to do as good a job as he can, but he's also. Yeah, Paula, what's up with that? What am I, roast beef? I've said some good stuff too. Anyway, but LAPD's politicized. They've got this board and this mayor who can just shut you down, and I see that as being a problem. And I know that there are some politicos who want to make the sheriff's job appointed. Fortunately, the Constitution, California doesn't allow for that right now, but they want to appoint them so they can push them around and make them do their bidding, and it'll be like Mayberry RFD. The town council doesn't like what the sheriff did, so you're gone, sheriff. I know there's that new law. Good luck trying to enforce that, trying to get rid of a sheriff. Because he's an elected official, just like these knuckleheads are elected officials.
And a perfect example, Viviana, is the difference between Luna and Chad Bianco in Riverside.
A huge difference. Absolutely, yes, I agree.
And they're both elected, right?
Yeah.
I don't. Is he Chad?
Yeah. Because I voted for him before I left California.
Yeah, Bianco's all sheriffs in the state are elected. Yeah, but not chiefs of police. A lot of the chiefs have to end up, kowtowing to whatever the city council wants or whatever.
Well,
Ay, Miguel.
Okay.
What? ¿Qué pasó?
I said that I'm with you, Mike. I agree that in order for someone to become the next sheriff, they need to go through the LASD system, file and ranking to fully understand the culture.
Oh,
But-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was it.
Okay. Well, Ghost One just popped up something. LASD still crying about LASD gangs. You see that one, Ken? Yeah, I'm going to say this, and I think that it will hold true with just about anybody that's still on the department. They are sick and tired of rehashing this crap about deputy gangs. Now, I will acknowledge that there are some people that acted like complete foolish criminal idiots that had tattoos. All right? But for every one of those you find, I can probably find 10 that did the same thing or worse that aren't tattooed. Right? It's human nature. People will screw up, and some people aren't good people and don't belong in law enforcement. But to have this single-minded, myopic mindset that you've just got to crush this, it's I can't imagine having lived through that for how many years now? 5, 6, 7, 8 years even talking about this. And the things that have come to fruition, there were just some case, the Banditos. Banditos is a good example. I think they were out of control. I do. And that thing that happened at, was it Liberty Hall or wherever it was, that thing just adjudicated. Well, it's like 5, 6 years old, and they're making it sound like it just happened, right? Most of those people that were involved in that are either retired, fired, or walking around crippled somewhere, but it's over. And I think that the sheriff has to send a message. If you do something, you get a tattoo, first of all, you can't tell them they can't get a tattoo if they can't be seen. And if they're going to get some kind of a station tattoo, man, they are playing with fire. You need to just forget about it, or get a henna tattoo, with a little bow tie or something on it. Look, I got a tattoo. But stay away from that stuff. And the naming of your group, we're executioners. We're killers. What's the other one? We're renegade somethings. We're banditos. Why the hell would you want to be a cop and call yourself a bandito?
Yeah.
Seriously. Wow. Yeah, and a lot of them are harmless. I've known a lot of people over the years that have had them. Great cops, great people, never had any trouble, never did engage in criminal activity or whatever, but they're all just thrown into this big vat. And I think, going back to the media, there's some people in the media who have made a career off of keeping this alive. Absolutely. And it's like every time you turn around, there's a couple. I'm not even going to mention them, not because I'm afraid of them, because I don't want to give them any airtime. But it's like, oh man, let's stir the pot with this gang stuff. Oh, the deputy gangs. Oh my God, they're out of control. Man, they've got the crap beat out of them. The banditos, the executioners. What's the other one that starts with an R? Somebody out there help me. Regulators. Regulator, come on. Oh, please stop. But those are bygone times. They've made the point. The sheriff's department has come on really hard on them, and I think in a lot of cases rightfully so. But let's move on. Let's talk about a lack of funding. Let's talk about a lack of training. Let's talk about a lack of personnel. Let's talk about a lack of good radio cars, a lack of buses, a lack of people having good, esprit de corps. I mean, it's in the toilet. So,
Viviana, that's Mike's commentary.
I appreciate it.
And what do you think of? And so Mike's next comment is, what do you think about that, Viviana?
Thank you for venting, Mike.
Thank you for being here for me. Yeah. Well, Ghost One just wrote, April Tardy has a tattoo. You're darn right she does. And the way they got around it, like with some other people, it's like, oh, well, that's just a station tattoo. That's okay. That's different than a gang tattoo. These gang member deputies, they're gangsters. And it's like, well, what? The state law, the one they just came up with, is like you have to do on-duty criminal behavior, right? That's how you get in trouble with this deputy gang thing. If a couple of guys go out to a bowling alley and get drunk and get in trouble, that is not gang activity, and it's not covered by the gang rules. It's just stupid drunk activity is what it is. And that's what I'm saying. You can get rid of every tattoo in the country, including the one I got on my butt, right? And people are still going to do stupid things, right? They're going to do.
He does. He has.
Yeah,
one on his butt.
well, I've shown you a picture of it. Can you? You weren't supposed to say anything,
Yeah.
but people are going to do dumb things, whether or not they have a tattoo. They're going to engage in, criminal activity, whether or not they have a tattoo. And I think that people just need to take a step back, not listen to those biased lefty media jokers that just want to keep churning this up so they can get their clicks and they can get, A1, top of the page kind of thing. and just look at the reality, and just everybody take a breath, step back. If somebody screws up, you spank them. If they do something criminal, you spank them, and worse than that. But the department needs to turn that corner. They need to move forward, and they can't move forward, and they can't take that step forward until the sheriff, the guy who's supposed to be leading the department, says, "Okay, you know what? I've heard it. We've handled it. If anybody steps out of line, I'm personally going to go spank them, and that's going to be that." But move forward. And I don't think he has the ability. I don't think he can. What does a leader do? A leader is a forward thinker, 5, 10 years down the road. This guy's thinking 5 or 10 minutes away from a Burger King. I mean, it's just, he does, knock it off, Viviana. You're messing up my monologue here.
The flow.
But, well, okay,
flow.
Tracy's right there, right? 2 words, Tracy, common sense, period. Common sense.
She's not saying you have common sense. She's just saying
She's not saying I
something.
have any. She said that people,
No.
people
No, we're not
people in
saying that
position
at
of
all.
authority need to have common sense and the strength to stand behind their decisions and to stop all this bullshit that's going on. I mean, like I said, there are people that still don't get it. They're tone deaf. They're brain dead. I don't know what the hell's going on. They're looking for weak leadership. And you've got a department full of people who can be rough and dangerous, right? We need them. Those people, but they also need to be able to turn it off and on, which they do, which causes a lot of stress. But they need to be able to be rough and dangerous when they are faced with rough and dangerous situations. And the guy that's in charge right now ain't cutting it. And he's had over 3 years, and he ain't cutting it. And I think it's time that people get over that, Hispanic last name thing, if that's what they're looking at, which I guarantee a lot are, right? But like I said, I've got that accent over the A, and I might even put an N over the first N.
Look at you. You know what an Enya is. Look at you. You know your Spanish.
Oh, I know my N. Yeah. So anyway, I feel so much better now. Thanks. Now I don't have to go. I don't have to go to therapy tomorrow. Now I got it all worked out.
We don't have to have a show next week. I'll just lift this and throw it up. We do have someone says amen, Captain Mike. Mike
Bless
took us
you.
to church tonight.
Church of Mike.
And I will continue Mike's thought, and he would say, "What do you think about that, Viviana?"
What do you think about that, Viviana?
Sheesh, you said a lot of.
Hey, you live in LA County, right?
I do now.
Okay, well, vote for Miguel Buenman when you see the name pop up.
Okay, I will.
Huh?
As long as I
That guarantees me one vote right there. All right.
Before we can't end this evening without talking to Viviana about UFC, because I want to find out how did you know what? I see her on Instagram, and I see her when she has these posts about people just getting the crap beat out of them, and she's like, yeah. And how did you get into UFC and all this stuff?
Oh my goodness. Shoot. I hated it before. A few years ago, I thought it was just so animalistic, so they were like savages. That's what I thought. And even though I am not the biggest fan of Ronda Rousey, I started watching because of her. There was the ultimate. You see, now I'm getting. People don't even know about this. They don't care. I don't think they care. But well, I'll tell you. So I was watching the reality show, The Ultimate Fighter, which was, and the captains were Misha Tate against Ronda Rousey. And there was so much drama. So I started watching it because of the drama. And then they ended up actually beating each other up. So it's like, okay, that's cool. Because they fight. I mean, there's not just drama. They're actually like getting, they're actually fighting. They're actually like beating each other up. So I like that. Because when people just talk, it's like, okay, whatever. What are you going to do it? What are you going to do about it? Like, back it up. If you talk the talk, like also back it up, right? So, and since then, I was hooked. And since then, I love UFC. I watch UFC every single Saturday. I'd rather be at home and watch a fight than go out to a nightclub or anything like that. I don't know. I think it's that I get to vicariously live all the violence through somebody else that I love. I mean, everybody sometimes wants to beat up somebody, right? When you're super upset or somebody's like super stupid, don't you want to beat them up? You want to like at least like slap them?
Oh, heavens, no, child. Please.
So that's how my my anger like vicariously through the fighters. So
Yeah.
yes.
So Helper says your UFC coverage is better than Rogan.
I don't know
So-
about that. Probably better than Bisping, yes, because Bisping, he's a funny guy, but oh boy, he says some weird stuff sometimes that doesn't make sense. But yes.
Do you ever watch UFC and see some of these hits and do you ever like close your eyes and go, oh my gosh, that's, or do you get all excited when people get the crap beat out of them?
Oh, I'm the kind of person. I actually like. Some of my friends have actually recorded me when I'm like watching fights. Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. I get excited. I start jumping. I start screaming. I've gone to a couple of UFC fights, and I've actually even started crying after like a fight ended or like my fighter lost. And so yeah, I get very invested. So I love it. It's fun.
And do you want to fight?
Like physically?
Do you want to be a UFC
Obviously
fighter?
not. But you know what? Okay, so here's the thing. It's interesting because I think a lot of people might think like, oh, she watches UFC, and I have some sort of like knowledge, like striking, jiu-jitsu. Like I have like an idea wrestling, right? Because I've been watching it for so long. But do I practice it? No, I was practicing jiu-jitsu, then I got surgery, so I had to stop. But I want to go back. However, people might think like, oh, she knows how to fight. I don't know how to fight at all whatsoever. However, I've been in the situation where people have approached me and they have actually pushed me and they started talking shit and they were like, oh, hey, what are you gonna do about it? And all I can say is I might not know how to fight because I don't know how to fight, but I'll try. I'll freaking go down trying. Like I'm not afraid of getting into a fight, if that makes sense. I'm not afraid of doing it. Like it is what it is, you know what I mean? Because I've been in that situation.
There you
I've been in
go.
that situation and I'm not backing down.
So
All right.
when are
Hey,
you
if you got-
when are you
Go
applying
ahead.
for law enforcement? Tomorrow?
Can I get a
Yeah.
referral? Can I get
Sure,
a
why not? Well, you know what? Ken is LAPD. I'm LA County Sheriff. I still know plenty of folks.
I know plenty of
Yeah,
folks.
so which way do you want to go? Ooh, there's the bet.
who is a good one?
Which LAPD or how do we even know? We're kind of
Well, you-
arrogant here. We don't even know if we're in the
You
running,
could want to
Mike.
go to San Fernando PD or Glendale PD.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I personally think that Sheriff's Department is best fit for you. So
I do like the tan and green. Believe it or not, I think it's a better uniform than LAPD. I'm sorry.
Oh my
Well,
God! Sorry, we're gonna go.
you know what? I'm going to tell you
guys.
something. Not a uniform, but if you cut my arm right now, I would bleed tan and green. Seriously, that's how that's not a
sexy,
real
man.
good visual. But I'm telling you that even though I'm retired, doesn't mean that I've lost track of my brothers and sisters out there. And they need our support more than ever. They need good people more now than ever. Always needed females. Always need Spanish speakers.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see what I'll cross that bridge when it's in front of me. We'll see. It's a possibility. It's an option. It's something that I've always thought about. I have the utmost respect towards law enforcement. I admire what they do. I respect what they do, and we'll see. We'll see.
Well, Helper says, "How dare you that you would go tan and green?" And he's taking everything back that he said nice about you. So,
That is so funny.
we didn't even. She didn't even throw us a bone. LAPD didn't get a bone from Viviana.
No,
as far
and
as, hey, LAPD
she hedged a little bit. I can see that. I can see the hedge in her eyes.
She's being nice to you because she doesn't want to see you crying. Mike.
Yeah, I know.
I cry easily. I really do.
You do? Are you a sensitive person?
He's very
I can-
sensitive.
Yeah, well,
He's
yeah,
very
no, you know
sensitive.
what? I'm a soft touch. I really am. But I believe in right and wrong, and Sometimes believing in right and wrong and standing up for what's right causes you to take a few more slings and arrows, right? I mean, it's easier just to bow and take a knee to the lefties. I'm not going to do that. Or the righties, right?
I like that. You see, that's exactly. I'm sorry. I really want to say this because I think this was exactly the point that I wanted to actually bring up to the conversation. It's not about left or right. It's just about remaining true to yourself and common sense and logic and facts. Especially when you're a journalist, especially when you're a news reporter. I don't care. I don't care if it's Biden, Trump. I don't care who I'm covering as long as it's the truth and it's facts. So yes, like you said, you don't bend the knee to lefties, righties, just to the truth.
Well, and that's, I mean, you look, what is the sheriff supposed to do? He is supposed to lead a law enforcement agency. He's supposed to make sure his people have the equipment and the education, the training that they need to do their jobs, and not all this other bullshit that's being pumped down their throats, and the stuff that he's allowing to have happen, and the malaise that the department's in right now because of him. And it's just a lot of it's because he's just got weak knees.
Yeah.
I
you go.
know we're about to wrap up, but I in preparation for this podcast, I did want I prepared some specific examples of things that other coworkers have told me, like super quick, just for our viewers to understand the kind of malicious intent these people have when it comes to the media. Like super quick, if that's okay with you guys. I wanted to share the
Oh yeah.
Go. You don't have to be quick.
Yeah.
well, after
Yeah.
your speech, after your monologue, you didn't freaking leave any time for the rest of us. So
There you go, Mike. There's no. We don't have time left
thank
anymore.
you, Mike.
Mike's gonna
Poor
cry.
thing.
Mike's gonna
Don't cry,
cry.
Mike. Okay, so super quickly, so one of those huge examples that I remember. Okay, so quick, number one. So we will hear far right many times to describe specific politicians. They will allow you to say far right. However, from the specific news channel in Spanish, the network of this Spanish channel, they allow you to say far right to describe politicians. But when you want to do the same, when you want to do the opposite with far left, they don't allow you to do that. So you can say far right this person, or far right this politician. It's a green flag. But the moment that you want to describe a politician as far left, they won't allow you to do that. So you can see how unethical and how biased it is when you are covering politicians. So you can be far right, but you're gonna be far left. So that's one thing. Another example that I wanted to share with you guys is, do you guys remember the event that happened in 2021? The huge it got so much covering when the Haitian immigrant was trying to cross the river or whatnot, and then supposedly you had the border patrol whipping the migrant. Remember? So we heard about that story nonstop, like day and night in the Spanish media and also the English media. We heard about it nonstop, like, oh, they're whipping immigrants, and they were comparing that to slavery, how they used to whip slaves, and it was a whole crazy narrative going for weeks, and this is to me one of the most disgusting examples that I've seen from producers trying to actually create a fake story while this story was going on. I have a friend working for a Spanish station. I don't want to say right at the border, the city, like right at the border of Tijuana. So they were covering the story, but since they thought the Hispanic audience wouldn't or couldn't relate to the Haitian migrant that was getting, according to them, he was getting, whipped, supposedly. So they sent this reporter, to instead of to ask the public, ask the audience, to, oh, what do you think of this incident? But what do you think it would have happened? How would you feel if this incident would have happened with a Hispanic immigrant? So now we are not even, so in that particular case, they are not even reporting about a factual incident, about something that actually happened. So now we are manufacturing an imaginary incident just to get a reaction from people and to sell that on the newscast. So to me, that was just egregious. It was just horrible to hear. And my very, very last example, about the same case, because it was nonstop, for weeks. Then you have the National Hispanic Media Coalition sending the email to all the members of the National Hispanic Association of Journalists, saying that that this brutality, this violence, this hateful act against immigrants, it needs to stop. So they're saying, and they are saying, oh, that they're whipping immigrants, and then of course the after the investigation is over, okay, surprise, surprise. I mean, it was just the rain of the freaking horse that the Border Patrol uses to, and there wasn't any retraction, there wasn't any apology. And one of the pillars of what they teach in journalism is that you need to be fair, and not just fair as far as like telling the truth or telling both sides, but it also needs to be the same amount of time that you use to talk about a specific topic. You need to talk about the opposite, or if there's a retraction, you should expect the same. We never got an email from the National Hispanic Media Coalition about it. So if the same organization, and if the same body that is supposed to control and uphold the values and the morals and the ethics of journalists is telling you the opposite, and they don't even send a retraction, what can you expect from journalists? So that's all I wanted to share with you guys.
Yeah.
Why is he?
Go
Why
ahead,
is he
Mike.
making fun of my ringtone? It's not my fault. That's the one that came with the phone.
Hey, helper, if this helps you at all, Mike's printer prints in pencil, so his ringtone's probably pretty hip.
Yeah. No, I
as
moved
far as
on to
I can
dot
see.
matrix a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So Viviana, it sounds like the editors of the news station accomplished the mission that they were after, is to disparage whoever was in the story. And then when it came to light, the true story, they had no, yeah, they had
More
no
than anything,
desire to fix it.
manufacturing a story. Like I said, when they were telling my friend, hey, go, like your new story today is go and get reactions from people, from what do you think if this would have happened to a Hispanic migrant? Like that didn't happen. So now you're manufacturing an imaginary incident, and that's your story. Like, one thing is being biased, but actually manufacturing a story, that's
Well, it's trying to manufacture anger, is what it's trying to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
But one thing is being biased, but now completely creating a fake narrative, creating like a fake incident in order to get a news report. To me, I was, like, bias. I guess this shouldn't be the norm, but you're used to it to some extent. But yeah, completely creating a fake story is different.
Amen. Hey, we've gone on pretty long here. It's like
Okay, bye guys.
the hour long show has gone an hour and 34 minutes.
Okay, bye.
I demand answers. Damn it!
I'm frozen.
You froze?
Hang on. Oh, there. Am I unfrozen
You weren't frozen
now?
to me. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I keep doing it. I'm having a bad night with that. But thank you guys for being here. Oh, look, we have a comment. It's the ultimate biased reporting. Even the way they showed the photo of the agent on the horse from different angles.
Yeah, that was total bullshit. I remember Joe Biden during one of the times he was actually awake. How that was horrible! Just see him whipping those guys. It's like go take some Mylanta and go to bed, Joe. And then when it, like you said, when it turned out it didn't happen. Remember, Kamala was all in an uproar when they found out it wasn't true. Neither one of them said a peep, not a word. They, yep, sorry. Yep, not even sorry. Just sorry, not sorry.
Nope.
And I'll tell you what, I know that those guys work on the border and ICE and everybody there is ecstatic that they now get to do their jobs. So,
Oh yeah, I hear from people on the Border Patrol, and they are crazy, happy, excited that they
Over
can
the
actually be
moon.
Border Patrol
Yep.
agents. And yeah, that's pretty disappointing. But yeah, what do you expect? What do you expect? And now they can actually do
Yep.
their job.
You know, it,
So,
a friend of ours just said, you know, now the way things are, it's like every day going to Disneyland. Every day you wake
Yeah.
up and you're in Disneyland. So good.
Look, I just want to say to Helper, I texted you, man. Return my text. So I thought I would say that.
Well,
So
I would never talk to him now that he made fun of my ringtone. So I got nothing
That's
to
okay.
say to that guy.
It's, yeah, I don't know that he's wrong, but anyways,
Probably not. All right, fine, fine.
but at any rate, Viviana, thank you for being here. Am I frozen
No.
again?
I can see you, so
Why am
I
I
see you moving around. I see you.
I'm freezing.
I see you
to me. I
squirming
don't
in
know
your
why.
seat. What do you got to say?
I was gonna say thank you for being here.
Yeah, we might have to carry this conversation on a different another episode because we just barely touched the surface.
Yeah, and look at Helper is responding to my.
oh my god.
I'm not being taken seriously, man. But how can they find you on Instagram?
My first and last name, I don't know if it shows there. I cannot see the whole screen, so I don't know if my name is there. But if my name is there, it's under the exact same name, Viviana Sarrade. I don't know. Does it show? Can you guys see it?
Yeah, it shows.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
That's
before you
what-
ask you
Yeah.
ask her that, Ken, you might ask her if she wants to be found by people. Like that.
Well, if they can't find her account will be private. So it
There you
doesn't
go.
matter.
No, my account is public. I have nothing to
So it's
hide.
all
It's nothing to hide.
Nope. Not at all.
it's your first and last name together.
No, separate, I believe. I mean, try both, I guess. Yeah, one of those will work.
I think if you just type in her name on Instagram, it'll just pop up, right?
Yeah, I think so.
There you go. 1986, my
or that.
ass. All right,
Oh,
helper.
Oh, man. He's your friend.
Apparently
Mike. He's
so.
being
Yeah,
helpful
I can
to you.
tell.
I like Helper. Helper is
So-
nice. He's a good guy.
I just, you know, I love him to death. Yeah. I don't know. I think
You guys are ridiculous.
With that, let me see. Oh no. she hashtags it's anti-LAPD. I don't even understand.
What?
yeah. Hashtag.
What does that
She's
even mean?
anti-cop. That's her
Wait,
hashtag.
Not
That's her
Viviana.
hashtag.
What did they
He's-
say?
He's pulling your leg.
I can't. I can't even read the
He's
comments.
dismissed it.
Well, it's probably a good thing.
No, I want to see. I'm okay. I have.
You're just, you know what? You're just gonna have to talk to helper,
Talk to Helper.
hamburger helper.
Find out what he's saying. Oh, now we're going back and forth. Hamburger Helper. Is that really kind, Mike?
If
Is
you
that
like
kind?
hamburger, yeah. Right? See, she
So,
agrees with
but
me.
I keep freezing. I don't know if I'm frozen or
Dude,
not.
just-
Man,
You're in a temporal causality loop. You need to just move forward.
Yes, please.
just move forward. Hang on. Oh, there. I'm back. Okay.
Thank
So,
God.
without any ado, will you stop making faces? Yeah. So we're going to be back probably next week or not. It depends. We will let you guys know.
Yeah,
We'll
we
let
might
them
get
know,
we might get
Viviana,
shut
if we're
down by
gonna
the
be back.
FCC. We'll let you know.
Yeah. And I just want to say hi to the FBI thank you guys for watching.
And free
all
Trevor
that.
Kirk. That's all I can say.
Yeah, we'll get that taken
Yep.
care of. Viviana, last thoughts before we
Last thoughts. Do your own research. Do your own research. The same way you might listen to Fox, watch MSNBC, and no, no. There is a purpose. There is a reason for you to understand. I think in order for you to understand the truth and actually recognize how biased or the lies, I think you need to actually know and research both sides, because somewhere in between you're gonna find the truth. And I'm not just saying just watch Fox or MSNBC, because if I talk to someone who watches MSNBC, if I say watch Fox, they're gonna be like, what the heck is wrong with you, and vice versa. And not just that, I'll also read independent journalists, read different outlets, news outlets. So to me, honestly, knowledge is power, and as cliche as it sounds, the truth will set you free. So just do your own research. Don't depend just on one news channel. Watch all of them. Read books. Read history. I mean, do your own research.
Preach it, sister.
There
All
you
right.
go. That's straight from the mouth of Deputy Sarrade. Deputy Sarrade. So the next time you come back,
That's
we'll.
kind of cool.
I like Officer Sarrade, so, but
There's more of a there's more of a
we'll
punch to deputy, right?
Oh,
The other
we'll
one's
see what happens.
officer.
Oh my gosh. So thank you guys for being here. Viviana, hang out for a minute. Once we leave, we're gonna hang out in the studio for a couple of minutes to debrief. So thank you,
I
everybody.
hardly know you. I'm not going to debrief.
We'll see you. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.